Hi guys. You guys won't believe what I just did. I totally just recorded like 20 minutes of the best thing I've ever recorded, and then it wasn't recording. So hopefully I can remember what I said in the last video and repeat it to you guys, because it was very much channeled. So you will hear animals. It is the middle of the day. Just keep that in mind. Okay. So I wanted to do a video about why I work with Ted. Okay. So the whole reason that I work with Ted is because, one, he's helpful, and two, it's preordained and predestined. And let me explain how this works. So we have soul contracts. Please check out my soul contract video. I'll probably actually cut that so that people don't have to watch like a 3-hour live. We had a lot of fun with it, but there's a lot of good information in there. So if you haven't watched that or know about soul contracts, I suggest that you do. So when we come to Earth, we have soul contracts and we have blueprints. So sometimes people choose a harder path than others. Ted chose a hard path. Ted chose a path of someone that has mental illness that was going to do the things that he was going to do, and to be hated forever for it. There may be lifetimes where you decided to be, I don't know, a dictator, a mob boss, unalive your husband or wife, unalive multiple people. We don't know what your past lives were. Okay. But remember that we have to experience everything. So we're not always good in every life. We make mistakes. And we choose to do that on the other side with our guides and God and ascended masters and everybody before we come here. And we have soul contracts with everybody that is involved in that situation. So he had soul contracts with all of his victims and all of the victims' families. And yes, people are like, well, as humans, what the heck? Why would we choose something like that? It's all understood on the other side, is from a higher perspective. If you think about it, he did have a mission, because we learned a lot more about serial killers because of him, and the mind and things. And he did help catch another serial killer. So Ted didn't want to be as a human as he was, but in spirit, he chose to do that before he came here. He chose to have mental illness. So do we condemn everybody that has mental illness or addictions or things like that? Or do we condemn them forever for their mistakes? No, because let me tell you, you or I may have been the same way. We don't know how we were in a past life. We are spiritual beings living a human experience. Therefore, we don't know what we chose to go through. So he's always been very helpful. And it all started when I first started channeling him. I never felt scared. I never felt anything like that. He was always very helpful, very forthcoming, and just Ted. And then when he helped with Idaho 4, because I got stuck. So because this situation was so much like Ted, and because the looks I felt were so much like Ted, I wanted to talk to Ted, because Ted helped catch the Green River Killer when he was here. Who better to know the mind of someone with, someone doing crime than him? So I reached out to him and he helped. And you guys saw how accurate the reading was. And because of that case, I watched him walk down. He came to me, first of all, and said, I told you so. Because he was still in the dark at that time. And he was being a little bit of a, how he is. And he walked into the light. I watched him walk down into the tunnel, which I've never seen before, but it was repetitive in my mind because I kept questioning it. I watched him walk down the tunnel and into the light. And when I did the Tijuana video, which I will cut off and put at the end of this video, he showed me him standing with his victims. He showed me him on the other side. I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't get tricked. I know when something feels wrong and feels bad, and it doesn't. Actually, I had our astrology chart done because we were trying to get to the bottom of why there's this connection, why I feel the need to work with him. Turns out our astrology charts are intertwined. My astrology chart shows that I go through this kind of the crime and all the bad things and go straight to God. Ours together creates the Star of David. Now, I'm not an astrologist. I can't fully explain all of this to you, but hopefully whenever I get my book, I will have it written up by an astrologist and she will explain it to you. But the Star of David is a pretty powerful thing. The very first time that we ever spoke, the stamp of approval was put on it by Spirit. Because we pulled the chart for every time that I've communicated with him. I think the second time it was about him giving me information, which he did. But the very first time we ever communicated, Spirit said, okay. Now, if I wasn't ever supposed to communicate with him, if he was this dark being, Spirit would have never allowed it. My husband would have never allowed it. God would have never allowed it. It would have never happened. I would have never gotten the information that I got. Because the stamp of approval was put on it, that is why it turned out the way it did. And since then, he said I can consult with him whenever I feel the need to, which sometimes when I get stuck, like on Nicola, and I can't get any information, or she doesn't want to talk to me, or whatever the reason may be, I talk to him. I am a crime medium. It makes sense for me to work with someone that had a life as crime and had a life doing the things that I work against. So we are not supposed to be judgmental, okay, and of someone's human life, because again, we're spiritual beings having a human existence. Everybody is allowed on the other side. Everybody is allowed in the light. It's not hell like people make it out to be, to where, oh, you're evil, you're going to go to hell. It doesn't work like that. Okay? So that's a choice and a decision. If people make mistakes and they feel like they've had a bad life and they kind of get stuck in the dark and they feel that that's what they deserve, that's what they'll be. Well, Ted was stuck there for a very long time. He recently had the courage, for helping with Idaho 4, to go to the other side and to go through his life review, which was very tough. He had to feel all the pain that he inflicted on everybody, including the victims and their families. And so he's done his redemption. He's done his what he needs to do to be on the other side, what we all go through to be on the other side. He was obviously forgiven by God, who is very forgiving, because guess what? Humanity is who is judgmental, not Spirit. Because we all know and understand from a higher perspective that we come here to learn lessons. So again, I may have been a witch that like poisoned a bunch of people in another life. Like, we don't know. Like, you may have been a dictator. You may have been a mob boss. You may have been a serial killer. Like, we don't know what you guys did. And he may have had another life where he helped a lot of people. He could have been a doctor in another life. He could have been somebody that was very giving and helpful to other people. That was just the role he played in this life for his lessons that he wanted to experience. Someone's always got to be the bad guy, okay? There's always got to be a balance to things. A light and a dark, a yin and a yang. He chose to come here and be the bad guy. We have to have a bad guy in every story. Just like, every story that you ever read, is it always good? No, there's a bad guy and there's a good guy. And that has a lot to do with the balance of things and the lessons. Do we ever learn anything from things being happy and good all the time? No, we don't. It would be great. That's why when we go to the other side, there's no negativity or any of that. There's all forgiveness, love, light, because we experience enough of that as humans. So we choose our paths. And he chose to come here with mental illness. And that caused him to do what he did. So, as a human, yeah, he was a horrible human. But as a spirit, he's not. He decided to pay his dues and go to the light. And he had to wait for me for a long time to do that, because this was all predestined in our astrology chart, which your astrology chart aligns with your blueprint. It aligns with your soul contract. All those things align. That's why a lot of people's astrology charts, if they're done right, and crime and stuff too, they're accurate. Because it's all predestined. It's all preordained. I mean, if you just look at Quentin, and how did I predict him, 3 years before he was found? Unless it was preordained and predestined, and his mom was already on that path, allegedly. So, that was already predestined to happen to him. And yeah, we all don't like her either. But they had a soul contract, and they had a purpose, and they had lessons that they had to learn. And the harder the lessons we learn, the more we evolve. That's like, drug addicts. A lot of us have a hard time understanding the addictions and things like that. That's something that they chose to come here to do. And they are some of the bravest souls that they chose to come here, because that is one of the hardest things that you can overcome, our addictions. And I'm a very forgiving person. I'm not a judgmental person. My husband did a lot of bad to me, but I still loved him because we had that soul connection. But not only that, I came to understand that his humanity and his lessons and our lessons together, if they wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be where I am as far as helping a lot of people. And not only that, like, that was his humanity. That was something he chose to overcome. And so again, on the other side, Ted showed me him standing with all of his victims, and all of his victims were holding hands, and Ted was standing in front of them. And they were fine with it, because guess what? They understood their soul contract. They knew that they had a soul contract with Ted. Their families know they have a soul contract with Ted when they get to the other side. And that's not to downplay the grief and the hurt and the anger and the pain and all of that happened when they were here. That's not to downplay that. That's all part of the lessons. But on the other side, there is none of that. There is no pain. There is no anger. There is none of that. So I choose to work with Ted because, one, he's helpful, because two, it's preordained and predestined. And like I said, I've been doing this for a long time. Okay. 10 years is the most I've ever devoted my life to anything. And I've gained a lot of experience from it, and I'm still always learning. But as long as Spirit guides me to do something, I'm going to follow that. I will always follow where I'm guided and where I'm led. If Spirit says, oh, it's okay to work with Ted to get information, then guess what? I'm going to work with them. And who knows if he's becoming a spirit guide, if he's becoming just a consultant. But anybody can really be a spirit guide. They have to go through the training to do it, as long as they're on the other side, have learned their lessons and all of that. He did go through, like I said, his soul contract, and it was very painful. And it took him a while to build up the strength to do that. But, this is a little bit of it's going to be about, if I can find enough stuff to write a book about on this subject, but it will be, and that is destined to do as well, to write a book on this subject, because I think I'm here to teach, and I'm here to help people to understand how things work. I feel like it's a big part of my path to get, to help people believe, but also help people to understand their soul contracts and blueprints and things like that, and not be judgmental of humanity, because humanity is just humanity. We're all spirit. We're all beings of light, regardless. And once we drop that humanity, we drop those lessons, the negativity, the mental illness, the addictions, whatever it may be, we, go to the other side. And again, it's a choice. Everybody's welcome there, because God is not a judgmental God, and Spirit is not judgmental, and the other side is not judgmental. They understand people have their soul contracts, and they do what they're supposed to do, or they do what they wanted to do to come here. And believe me, before he came here, his guides were like, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're going to be the bad guy and you're going to be hated forever. Yeah, I'm sure. For whatever lessons, whatever way he wanted to evolve his soul. And as a crime medium, who better for me to work with? Really think about it. Look at the work that I do. Murdered and missing people. What did he do? It makes sense. And again, it's predestined and preordained in our chart with the Star of David. As crazy as that sounds, and hopefully it'll be explained in more depth one day in a book, because I'm not an astrologist. But as long as he's giving me helpful information, and as long as Spirit is saying, okay, you can do it, I don't give a crap what YouTube says. I don't give a crap what anybody says. Look, if you're going to be a part of this channel, or if you're ever going to do this work, You have to understand that you can't be judgmental. You have to understand the soul contracts, the other side, the blueprints, all of that. Like, you have to understand that, because you will do a lot of readings with people where, they've had family members that have done a lot of bad things, and you cannot be judgmental towards that at all. So Ted did his time for all his horrible crimes. He felt all the pain that he gave all his victims and all of their families. And he's now on the other side, and he's trying to do good, and he's trying to help through me. He's never once told me no. He's always given me good insight, especially when I'm struggling. And he even kind of talks to me like, a guide would, in a way. Listen to what I'm telling you. So that is why I choose to work with Ted, and why I am not judgmental, and why I understand that we all have our own paths, whether it be good, bad, or ugly. Okay? There's always a balance. Someone has to be dark and someone has to be light. And he had a dark human experience, and he did a long time in the dark for that. And now he is on the other side, healed from it, and he probably won't make that decision again. We don't make the same decisions to experience the same things over and over. So, he won't reincarnate as another serial killer. It doesn't work like that. Unless he had lessons that he decided, oh, I want to do this again. I very seriously doubt that. I mean, it's always possible, but I doubt it. And so, no, BK is not him incarnated. It was just a reference that I made. He's on the other side. It was more like a history repeats itself, or something of that nature. But when I that day that I chose to communicate with him, with BK, there was something in our astrology charts that was amazing. And I really can't explain it to you because I'm not an astrologist, but she explained it to me, and I just remember that it was destined, and that a big part of my path was that case. And that's one thing, like, literally the name Brian is in the astrology chart, in the things that I will be known for. And Ted is also there as well. So it is something that is predestined, preordained, and I am not going to argue with that. That means that I chose it as well. And who knows, we probably might have a past life together. And again, he may have been a priest in another life for all we know. He may have been a doctor. He may have been, like, we don't know. Okay? So we can't judge, because I guarantee you that you were someone bad in another life. It's just that you healed from that life and you don't remember it, but you will on the other side. So, I mean, who better to work with in crime? And he's always helpful. There's no negative anything anymore. He's on the other side, as you can see. He's not really full of himself. He's a little different if you see how he was prior to this, in the very first readings, and compared to now. And a lot of people may not understand this. That just means that you need to evolve a little bit. It's hard to understand from a human perspective. I get that. As a psychic medium, and as someone that's been doing this a while, I'm telling you that if you're going to be following this path, if you're going to ever do any of this work, that these are things that you need to understand. You cannot be judgmental of someone's human path and their negative things that they did when they were here. Does that, like I said, does that mean that we condemn everybody that has a mental illness? No, we can't. Right? Because that was their choices and decisions to come here and have those kind of experiences. And Ted's explained that there was something off in his brain when he was here, and that caused him to do that. And that happens, like, people that aren't sane don't do this kind of thing. So we can't really condemn people that have mental illnesses that do this stuff. And again, his soul contract, his victims had soul contracts with him. They knew what they were getting themselves into. They knew before they ever came to Earth that they had a soul contract with Ted, And their families knew the same thing. So keep that in mind, you know, that they had us all a soul contract together for whatever reason, whatever purpose. And that goes with anybody. So, and yeah, it's hard. Like I said, it's hard to understand as a human and from a human perspective. It really is. But you have to kind of put yourself in more of a spiritual way. And once you get to know like the blueprints and the soul contracts and all of that, like once you understand all that and that everything's destined and everything kind of goes with the timeline it's supposed to go in, you'll understand it a little bit more. But, you know, he was a bad human, but he's not a bad soul. And he is forgiven and in the light, and that's good enough for me. Especially since, you know, my husband wasn't the best person either. And I still love him, and I still talk to him, and I still, you know, I forgive him. Because without our experiences, I wouldn't be where I am right now, and I wouldn't be able to help others. And that goes along, like even putting out my book was hard, but it's meant to be shared. And I think that the book with Ted, if I ever get it written, will be meant to be shared, because I'm here to try to help you guys understand. I'm here to try to teach. So any negative comments about Ted is evil and all that, I'm just going to delete it, because you were probably evil in another life and you just don't know it. Like, no one's perfect, and no one's had perfect lives their whole life. It's not possible. Because again, we have to experience the good and the bad and the ugly to learn from it. That's the only way our soul evolves. So the harder lessons that we choose, the more our soul evolves. And he's doing good on the other side. Look, all the information he gives me, I don't question it anymore, because I've always been able to validate everything. And again, look at how he did on his reading with BK. I mean, dead on. You know, one of the most accurate readings I've ever done. So hell yes, I will continue to work with him to get the accurate information, and because Spirit says to do so. Again, if I get a idea to do something, I'm going to do it. I work a little differently than a lot of these other psychic mediums out here. I don't have any fear when it comes to having to walk into the dark to get to the light. And I know that I am protected by my guides and my angels and my light. I have things back away from me because of my light. You know, there's been times where, you know, I've tried to help somebody with something dark, and it literally hid from me, because I'm not afraid. And again, that is all in my astrology chart. I walk through the dark to get to God. And that's what I'm meant to do. And by damned, I will do whatever I need to do, whatever Spirit says to do. I'm following Spirit here. I'm not following YouTube. I'm not following humanity. I'm not following any of that. I'm following Spirit. Spirit has me on the path. I am no one without them. I am absolutely no one without Spirit. They give me the information. They gave me my gifts. They can take them away. And so I remain humble in knowing that they are in charge, and that whatever they say to do, I will do. And that I don't have judgmental feelings towards Ted or anybody else that have screwed up in their life, or even these cases that I work, you know, or we have these type of people. Again, that's soul contracts they had with them. That's just what they all chose to do together. Hard to understand from a human perspective. I get it. The more you get on your spiritual plane, the more you'll understand. And if you're gonna be on this channel, I'm telling you, just get used to it. Just get used to it, because anytime that I feel like I need to talk to him, I'm going to talk to him. So just get used to it. If you don't like it, I'm not the channel for you, but I will do whatever I need to do to get the information I need to get. And again, I feel like he can be a spirit guide. He's on the other side. Anybody can that goes through the training and whatnot. And for him to be on the other side, that means that God let him in. So who are we to judge? God's not judging. That's not for us to do as humans. It's just not. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from. And again, some of you may have been all badasses in another life. You just don't know it. So who is anybody to judge, right? Thank you for liking, subscribing, supporting me. I sincerely appreciate it. After this, stay tuned. I'm going to go ahead and clip in the video of where I communicate with Ted before the Tijuana thing. So, you guys have a lovely day and stay blessed. Kind of wanted to try to contact Ted again and see if what he has to say about this other wannabe or the guy that they are calling Ted Bundy. Or another Ted Bundy, and I think I've already gotten information on him back in the Idaho 4 case. I think a little bit may have come in when I did the auto write. So, and that's just because the energy is similar, right? The other guy kind of looks like Ted, and this guy is acting more like him in what he chooses to do, which I think I mentioned on the live that I did on New Year's. So I don't really know much about this case. There's the stuff that I do know I kind of already got on the live. But whatever is said, it's because I get it. Okay. So just keep that in mind. I don't research cases or anything like that. And I'm not really talking to the victims yet. That might be something that I do in the future. I just wanted to kind of, since this is another serial killer and since they're saying he's so much like Ted, I really want to get his kind of ideas on it. Plus, I think I saw him walk into the tunnel after the Idaho 4 guy was arrested, and I want to see if he's on the other side, into the light. If he decided that by helping with that, maybe he was ready to go, to his next step. So that's going to be interesting. But I just kind of had this idea just because, again, all the Ted Bundy energy that's going on right now and the way that Ted is and how he likes to help people and how he likes to help with, serial killers. We saw that he was very accurate with the last case he helped me on. And when he was alive, he did the same thing. So I kind of call him my little serial killer consultant. And that's what we're going to see how it goes. He just won't have kind of the negative, like the negative aspects really, but he'll still have his personality if he's on the other side. I mean, if he's gone into the light. If not, he'll have like the more negative aspects. But people are, their kind of personalities kind of stay the same. So yeah, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I almost forgot to say that. You were getting a little too excited to talk to Ted here. Yeah. My little consultant on the other side.
Yeah.
And why my pen just decided to run out of ink, although there's ink in it. You guys are going to have to hold on 1 second. I've got to get a new pen. Look, there's ink in it, but it's not. All right, Ted, we want to talk to you about this wannabe guy. The one that I don't know what's going on when everybody's idolizing you now or something. Which is weird because he did mention that in the last reading that people idolize him. So yeah. It's kind of weird that he brought that up.
Right.
All right. I really honestly think he went to the light. No joke. Okay. Because the first time I channeled him, like he was in the dark. And then when he came to me after the Idaho 4 suspect was caught, like later on when I was driving, I saw him walking into a tunnel. Now I've never seen him walk into a tunnel like that. Like with the tunnel with like a light at the end of it. I've never seen it. But for some reason I was shown that, and most people probably, he's probably tricking you. I don't think so. I don't see why he would trick me on that. And as he's stepping forward now, he's different. Okay. So he's not standing in the dark anymore. It's like I see light behind him. No matter how much I try to like see him in the dark, I don't see him in the dark anymore. So I think maybe he thought that maybe he redeemed himself a little bit and he was maybe ready to go to the other side after being in the dark for so long and kind of putting himself through what he thought he deserved.
Right.
I don't know why he's saying thank you to me, but
Aw.
He is, and I think he's saying that because he said not many people would talk to me, not many people would work with me like this, and not many people would help me realize that I needed to go on, that it was time for me to go on, that I had been punished enough, in that we're all beings of light. So as you can see, he's kind of shifted his personality a little bit.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have the negative aspects in the way that he's talking now. So now he's a little more, he just feels different. You know what I mean? And he seems different.
Okay.
He seems like he's been, you know, I think before he was afraid to face what he had done, and so he was scared of the other side. They're scared of the judgment, and then also of his life review. He didn't want to feel what he put on people. Like, he was afraid to face that. But he's saying now that he's glad that he did. He's glad that he decided to move to the next step. And I'm hearing that he is thankful that he was accepted. Because I think for a long time he didn't feel like he was going to be accepted into the light because of what he had done. But he says, now over here I learned that we come to earth for a reason, and we make mistakes for a reason, and this was something that I could not control, and it took me a long time to figure that out. He's talking about, again, the brain thing. He keeps taking me back to the brain thing, and how it's wired wrong, or the electrical current is different in it. And so he's kind of saying like that's what was wrong with him, and that's what happens with people like this. And part of it is something that they choose to experience. He's learning that was something he chose to experience. Which he didn't understand any of that before, but he understands it now. And you guys, I know it. Okay, so from a human level, this is hard to understand. Okay, you have to understand that this is coming from a spiritual level. Like, we are spirits having a human experience. Okay, so on the other side, there's no negativity, there's no blame, there's no none of that, and I'm preparing you for the vision that I was just shown.
Okay.
He's standing with his victims.
Okay.
And it's a powerful vision because it's a vision of understanding and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Okay, because on the other side, we understand things, and I'm getting tons of chills in my head right now.
I've had chills this whole time since we started.
On the other side, there is not that blame. There is a understanding from a higher perspective, okay, because we are all love and light over there.
Yeah.
Okay, so when the victims go over there and they go through their life review, they understand why this happened because they're reminded of it all. And then they understand that part of his path as well. And so they understand on the other side, there's nothing but forgiveness, love, light, all of that.
Okay.
And I have got chills from head to
do.
toe, which is a huge like indicator of truth to me.
Yeah.
And I always, I feel that when it's true.
Yeah.
I am in no way being tricked here, okay? Because not only am I seeing it, I'm feeling it. He has never tricked me before. This is, I can tell the difference. I've been doing this long enough. I can tell the difference of when someone's in the dark and when they've crossed, and the feeling of their energy is different. So he decided to go into the light because of the work he helped me with. He said it was almost like a redemption, and in a little way that he could.
Right.
And I'm still getting chills here.
Yeah.
I mean, really. The only problem is that now I feel more of his passing than I did before. So I'm feeling the effects of the electricity, or how one would feel with their head or whatnot. Like, I'm getting a really bad headache, which I always kind of got a headache when I channel him anyway. It's coming in stronger, like it would for someone I'm channeling of the light. Okay. So he decided that he could help more with this on the other side. He said nothing is not planned. So from the very first time that I ever channeled him, this was in the works. And the reason that idea was given to me was so that this could take place and this could happen. Because I'm getting chills again. Another thing is that when I did like the second reading on him and he was showing me different serial killers and it wasn't just about him anymore. I think that was him preparing me for
more.
That, this was something that was going to happen again. So I'm guessing what's being told to me by my guides and him is that I am allowed to consult with him if I need to on things like this.
Nice.
Because although in the light, I mean, he still understands how it works and it's still a part now. It's now feels like it's a part of his duty.
Okay.
It's almost like when he got to the other side, he decided that this is what he wants to help with, to do, to kind of like redeem himself a little bit. And so, because he wants people to understand more of what he went through when he was here. Like, because psychopaths, like, they really kind of can't. I'm having a hard time breathing. Sorry. They really kind of can't control how they are. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
It's like having any kind of mental illness. If you have bipolar or you have schizophrenia or you have something like that, like, you cannot control it. And a lot of people judge off of what the psychopaths do. But I think they forget that they are also struggling with what they're doing. Because they don't want to feel this way. They don't want to do these things. But it's like a compulsion or something that can't stop because of whatever, a flip in their switch or something with their brain, or something like that. So he just, I think a big part of what he's trying to say is he wants to kind of bring that to people's attention for whatever reason. I don't really know. It's almost like it's part of his kind of thing on the other side. And he said he probably would have done this a long time ago if anybody would have been open to it.
Okay.
But he says because I'm open to it and I wasn't afraid of him and I gave him that chance, it gave him the courage, I guess, is what he's saying.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And because he understands it, because he kind of went through it, and now he's had to go through his life review, he understands even more than we could ever know, because he had to relive all the pain that he inflicted on people. So if people say that, he didn't go through enough, he did, because he had to feel every life that he took, he had to feel that. He had to feel the pain of the loved ones that he inflicted on people and stuff. That's part of your life review. And none of us have been perfect in any of our lives. So I think that's part of what he wants to teach people. And also that people that have a hard time in life or are dark can eventually go to the light if they want to.
Okay.
If they're in the lower astrals or something. So there's, I don't know. He makes me feel like this is some sort of path. Okay. This is some sort of path with us, which is weird because I never expected that. I never expected that kind of path. But I always get ideas for a reason, and I always try to follow spirit, and I don't question it. And again, just because someone is dark in life, they still have, there's still a soul, there's still a spirit. And once we drop that, the humanity is what makes us bad.
Right.
And we only hang on to that if we don't go to the light and clear, heal from it. So, it's weird to look at him like this now in this picture with the stone cold look on his face, because that's not how I'm seeing him on the other side.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can imagine Ted Bundy in a more, it's really hard because he never really showed that side of himself, but a more, not the stone cold look on his face, just like a normal person. If you could imagine him as a normal, handsome man, I see him with the bearded mustache and his curly hair, like wavy hair and everything. Like, I see him as very handsome and very, like, he's just different. He's more, he's in the light, so he's gonna look like they do over there. So the thing is that he wanted to say was that he's met with the victims, and everybody's gone through the healing and all of that needed to be done. And he just keeps saying, like, I need to thank you for that. So
No.
I didn't really ever do anything other than I wasn't afraid to talk to him.
Right.
And have him have the experience that maybe caused him to be like, okay, maybe the light isn't so bad. Maybe just from hearing me talk about it or something. I don't really know.
Yeah. Or we helped him do something good.
Yes, but
You know?
and so the thing is that he. So it's like I have remorse now, and I want to apologize to all of the families of the victims and everybody that I hurt along the way. And he especially shows me like his girlfriend back then, and like apologizing to her for the hell he put her through, and the daughter. Okay, so there's that, like, he wants to apologize now. It's like important for him to say that.
Okay.
I mean, I never thought I'd channel an apology from Ted Bundy, but it's
right.
He's not the narcissistic person. Now, he will be honest when it comes to if he wants to tell me about these serial killers or killers, he will come across as kind of the old him, because he wants to explain it, but at the same time he's going to have his snide remarks with it.
Yeah.
As part of his personalities, but it's not going to be like in a negative or narcissistic way. I don't know how else to explain it. It'll be a little different. Okay. Yeah, I feel more of his passing now that he's on the other side than I did when he was in the dark. That's really weird.
Okay. Yeah.
Like like when we don't forgive and we hang on to that like negative emotion, like again, that's all humanity stuff. That's all the negativity, all the feelings of rage and all of that. That's all humanity's things. Like if you drop all of that, you aren't you're just a being of light, basically, when you drop all of that. And so he says everybody is welcomed here as long as they decide to go.
Okay.
So you can go and be renewed as long as that's your choice. And he says it's much better there than where he was.
That's good.
Yeah, because he's showing me like different parts of heaven and like things that he's done over there, and it's like, and then he switches me back to like when he was in the dark, he was just in the dark all the time. So he's actually experiencing that stuff, and it's just, I mean, it's really kind of incredible. And I know a lot of people might not understand this, but you know, if you really want to know how the other side works and how things work, if you're going to be listening to psychic mediums, like this is part of it.
Yeah.
It's, you know, being a spiritual person, I understand things from, I mean, being a medium, I understand things from a different perspective of thing. I know that we come here to learn lessons. I know sometimes we screw up and none of us are perfect. And I know, even though people do really bad things, that was a really heavy load for him to carry when he was here, you know, to have those feelings and stuff and to act on it. Like that was a really heavy experience that he chose to go through. And he knew that he was going to be hated as much as he was loved.
Right.
Even in his passing the same way.
Yeah.
But he says it's one of those urges like you can't control. And it's hard to condemn someone forever for that if like no one's ever experienced it or been in somebody that's done something like this, if they've never been in their shoes and kind of understand like how the mind works. Because like I never realized either, but I keep getting the reference too of like dogs that are wired wrong. Yeah. And like how comes they just snap and they turn red and like there's nothing you can do. Like it's this kind of the same thing. Like he always references the brain with me. There's something that is different in the brain with psychopaths and sociopaths than there is with normal people. And it
Right.
causes them to do things that a normal, rational person wouldn't do. It causes them to have feelings. It causes them to act on things. It causes them to feel a certain way. And a lot of time when people do these things, they have something going on in their brains. I mean, yes, normal people do snap and things like that, but a lot of the times they do have mostly mental issues or some kind of tendencies, that maybe are even undiagnosed or that were part of something before, or maybe they had, so there's something there. Now, yes, he's saying that the dark can control sometimes, like demons can come in and make people do things like that. That's what he's talking about. That can happen.
Right.
And it
Yeah.
does happen, especially if a lot of people do drinks and do drugs. And so then again, you're still not in control if you're controlled by the dark in some way like that. So he's explaining that side too. So I guess the reason why he wanted to go off and do this whole thing right now and he's talking about it is because he has a thing about wanting to get people to understand this.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think he kind of did that when he was here too, when he was like talking about other serial killers and stuff. Like and that's why he studied psychology and criminology, because he also wanted to understand why his brain worked the way that it worked. Because I think he recognized it at an early age and he didn't understand it, but he wanted to learn about it. And I think that's why people like him do that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna shift. He's shifting gears here, and we're going into this guy.